Welcome to Viewpoint Ministries International. This is the hour. Let's talk about Jesus. Here, we discuss issues and challenges of life, along with solutions from the Word of God, the Bible. Our discussion includes, but is not limited to, the simplicity of the gospel and the role of Christians in nation building, health, education, media, economy, and Christian living. Together, let's contend earnestly for the faith. Jude chapter 1, verse 3.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, wherever you join us from. My name is Solomon Oluwabi, and I will be your host today, even as we dig into a very special topic, and for this special time, the impact of evolving technology and the gospel in legal practice. The impact of evolving technology and the gospel in legal practices. Now, the legal profession, of course, just like any other profession, is undergoing some transformation. But when we focus on the legal profession, as we are doing today, we can see that it's been driven by rapid technology advancement. Things that you have to walk into an attorney's office before to do, now you can do them from the comfort of your home. So innovations such as artificial intelligence, blockchain and big data analysis are reshaping the traditional legal practices. This, of course, has promised unprecedented efficiency and accessibility that everybody quests for on any given day. But with this advancement, also, we do have some, ethical challenges and potential disruption to what we have known to be norms. So we're going to be looking at this today. And when you're talking about legal, you have to go look for the people in charge of the legal. And that is our dear attorney right here, Bisola Adeyemi. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us today on this platform.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. It just occurred to me that we're actually having this topic in this time in North America. I wasn't thinking before, not until I started speaking and I realized what we're in. But so today we're going to be looking at our topic here. And my first question for you is that faith and integrity, how can the gospel influence ethical decision making in the legal profession, especially when looking at these technological advancements? Over to you.
I think these days, a lot of Christians, even myself, is weary about AI, especially because we know in the Bible that like during the rapture and the time of judgment, that there is 666. And they said, if the Bible describes the scanning of the hands, the scanning of the numbers, that you can't go to the grocery store. I think I'm mixing also the movie. I forget what the movie. The movie is, but it's it talked about the rapture and stuff, and so you will see people like couldn't go to the grocery store unless the 666 was scanned and stuff like that. So people are like, oh, this is the start of 666 with AI and things like that. Me, I'm not God, so I can't tell you whether AI is the start of 666. But with anything, just like social media and even like the internet, when it first came, it was controversial, right? So with anything, when something first happens, it's hard to change, or it's hard to invite change. As we know of it, technology will always improve, and the way we are living our lives will always improve. Whether it's for the better or for the worse, improvement is necessary. And so I think, though, as Christians, just like if you use Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or even podcasting, if you're using it to the glory of the Lord, then even if others are using it for evil, we can still use it for good. So even though there may be some fear with how technology is adapting and how it's quickly growing and moving, if we still have a foundation of the gospel and we're using it for that, then as Christians, we should be fine.
Very well said. Thank you so much. In a nutshell, despite difficulties and changes, uh, we must do everything to glorify God, and I think that's one of our Bible reading this week for the Sunday school. Whatever you do it to glorify God. And yes, the social media, and of course, we're talking on one right now that makes this
Mhm.
possible for us, right?
Yeah.
So, and those are the things that we will continue to see. And the last time I checked, technology is being developed at the rate of 50% higher than expected. So,
Mm.
what is going to happen next year? We will need to see that by God's grace. But
Yeah.
differentiate what is good and godly and what is evil and ungodly, it's becoming more difficult and difficult. And of course, we can only ask that God help us. All
Yeah.
right. Very well said. So that brings my next question. Then, when we're looking at what we are having in the legal environment, justice and mercy, how does a gospel-centered worldview align with the principle of justice, mercy in the legal practices?
So I remember before I went to law school, just telling the story. When someone asked me, like I had just graduated from University of Maryland undergrad, and they're like, "Oh, so what are you planning on doing?" I said, "I'm going. I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to law school." They're like, "You're a Christian?" And I said, "Yeah. There are many Christian lawyers." They don't say, "Okay, if that's where God is leading you." But it's funny to me because we have a whole book of judges in the Bible. So what were the people judging if it was not the law? And we hail Deborah, we hail Solomon, we hail Moses, but weren't people not coming to them with their problems, and were they not judging what was right and wrong and giving counsel? And so I don't see how that's different from what I'm doing now, or any legal attorney, or even a paralegal, anybody in the legal profession, even if you work in the courts. How is that different from what was done in biblical times? It's just, to me, people having an understanding. If we have a God that is a God of order and he created laws, the laws have to be enforced. Because if our nature is sinful, then who would bring it to order? So to me, they're not mutually exclusive. You can definitely have a gospel centered worldview and still be in a legal practice. God is the only ultimate God, the one of justice. He's the one who gives us our justice. But because we're created in His image, He already allow us to have certain things in place so that we too can put justice in place. So that's where, I mean, if you look at Deborah, she was a judge. Solomon, the two mothers that one of the mothers slept on the child. He was acting as a judge in that.
And that was actually what, one of the things people kind of thinking about today, when we're thinking about Solomon. How in the world that man was able to think of, say, look, bring the child that is alive, let's slice that child
Exactly.
and give it. I mean, that should be considered being cruel and being cruel. But ultimately, he had a place he was going. Now, of course, for anybody who might be listening to this, we knew, what leads to that was, him praying and asking God for wisdom to be able to lead the people. But when you don't know that, that premise, and you just like, how can you say, let's just divide the living child to two?
Exactly.
And then ultimately, that was how the case was able to resolve, because you couldn't be a genuine mother and agree to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Despite that, if the judge says, well, since you agree to that, well, let's just give it to the other woman who said, this is my child. So I think that is important. And another point you bring was, going to law school thing. And I usually say, if I study law, I would most likely would never be a private practice.
Mm.
I have some bias when it comes to the issue of law. So certain thing is just that, you just have to be in prison for life.
But you know who is helping the immigrants now? Those that are in private practice. Because I'm actually a federal government worker, and we can't, even if you work for immigration court, you can't help. You can only enforce and most times if somebody's coming to immigration court, it's because they're going to get deported or there's some issues. But who are keeping the people? Who are keeping the people in the country legally? It's the ones that are in private practice.
Yeah.
So we have our biases, but then people don't have their biases when they're using them for for their own individual comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you just imagine right now that there are which is not the case, all right? But if you just look and say, let's just say there are no Christians today in that sphere of life, how it will have been. Because ultimately, what happens is every time in our history, you have to have people who are there to ensure that people who would not have, been able to enjoy what the society brings, there are people who call their attention to it. That does not, there are people today that myself knows that they are in custody today, not because they did commit that. Mm-hmm. And there are people walking free today that they commit the crime, but for some reason, they're able to make it able to be on the street. So I think those are very key. Those are very important. Thank you so much for shedding light on that, even as we continue today. Now, I want us to go back to this using the technology as a tool, and everybody that is joining us, feel free to participate in this conversation. Today, we're talking about the impact of evolving technology and the gospel in legal practice. Now, when we look at technology as a tool, can technology be used as an extension of gospel principles, such as promoting fairness and equality?
Yes, because the example that you gave early just now, that there are some people that are in jail that didn't commit the crime, and then there's some people that are out of, that are walking free that committed the crime. So part of technology is now they have DNA. Well, not now, because DNA has been used for quite some years, but DNA. Before they could only go through with circumstantial evidence, but now if you have the DNA of somebody. Let's say of the murder weapon of maybe blood in the scene or whatever, they were able to match. They were able to figure out that some people were in jail that did not. Their DNA was nowhere near the crime scene. So because of that, they were let go. And I think that there's a project. I think it's called the Mercy Project or something like that. There's a project that they use DNA.
Innocent Project.
The Innocence Project, yes. They use technology to basically prove someone's innocence. So yeah, technology definitely can be used to promote fairness and equality, especially with putting the right person in jail and taking the right person out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at any given time, we need those people who are able to stand, with the truth. Those who intentionally chose to dig and looking for the truth, because the reality of life is things will happen and people will get caught in the midst, and you will have to think of there was a popular case that I used because I did criminal justice as my bachelor, and when I started off on that case, it was the case of double murder, and when I finished, it was a popular case, but of course I didn't want to mention it. So myself, I came to the point that I was like, did he really do it? Because initially, he had to do it. He's the one that did. Looking at everything. But I started to dig myself, started to go through all the evidences that they have, all the hearings conducted, all the witnesses. So I started to doubt. I was like, did they really do it?
Yeah.
But ultimately, there are people today who know deep down that they didn't do it. And sometimes it could be emotional when somebody maintains their innocence and they actually did the crime. But they're able to perfectly maintain that innocence from beginning to the end, and they have money. They're able to hire big time attorney, and but then somebody didn't do the crime, but they don't have money. You
Hmm.
know, a poor person who commit crime or who didn't commit the crime but somehow get roped into it might find themselves making deals, plea deals, because they don't have money.
Yeah.
So it's all on both sides with the goal of putting the bad people away and having people who didn't commit the crime to be able to walk free. But it costs. It costs on both sides.
It
You
does.
didn't commit the crime. It costs nearly everything if you're going to make it out with your family and everything that you have to be able to make it out despite that not committing the crime. So yes, the issue of DNA has come and really helpful. And I mean, just imagine back in the days when the DNA was not there, when they can say, this person killed somebody or they did something, and everybody will kind of agree, and then they will provide the evidence, but there's no way to match their DNA into it. I mean, I
Mm,
can also imagine, looking back, people who have been 30 years, 40 years in prison, but they did not commit it.
I know. It's sad. It was just that will take mercy from God.
Only, it's
Because
only,
even Joseph didn't commit the crime, but it was God's mercy that brought him out.
yeah, just imagine the case of Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, how you discern when God is at work,
Mm-hmm.
by literally by putting somebody away.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody wrongfully was caught in, you didn't do the crime, you do the crime. Because in the case of Joseph, not until later people know that yes, it's because God have something. I mean, there was no way for him to get to where he became, the second in charge, right? I mean, except if he go down there, but he had no reason to go down there, so he has to go by way of him being sold into slavery and all of that. So God can have agenda for somebody, and God uses every means to get the person there, but in the process, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be likable. So yeah, thank you so much. The portion we are going to now is what we call "Lead Me to Jesus." This is a place where we give people the opportunity to know Christ and where people are getting introduced to Christ. And I'm going to be handing that over to you. Thank you.
Okay. So, if you've ever thought that there's a situation where something happened to you, you didn't receive justice, it's only God that can avenge us and avenge us to the point where um everybody knows that okay, God is stepping in on your behalf. And so I would encourage you to give your complaints to him. Even me as a lawyer, there's certain situations where I'm just like, Lord, this is not justice. This is not a situation where the good guy won. Why does it sometimes always seem like evil people are getting ahead of the better people? But it's only God that can give us justice. It's only God that can give us true justice. And so if you're looking for that justice, if you're looking for vengeance, because of any situation or circumstances you have gone through, I will encourage you to seek Jesus, and I will encourage you to share your heart and pour your heart to Him, because the Bible says that is nothing that we have gone through that Jesus Christ has not gone through as a man here on earth. And so, share and open your heart to Him as concerning your situation, and allow Him to make every crooked way straight for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That how you approach that. I was shaking my head back here because true justice only exists with God, and many times people get away, with things. And anybody at any moment can find themselves in a place where you have to defend something that is not true, and you have to either you give up completely about it and let God takes control, but then every other person can believe that yes, you did it, or you're gonna have to spend your life trying to fight the issue. But when you bring it to Jesus, surely He's more than enough to be there for you. So right there, our email is in the chat, info@viewpointministriesinternational.org. Let us know if you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, and we'll be glad to send you a New King James copy of the Bible. Even as we continue our conversation today about the impact of evolving technology and the gospel in legal practice, I think the legal practice it's one of the play, and I kind of joke around with this sometimes where I say, well, whatever an attorney writes or a medical doctor writes, they usually fly on any given day. you know those two group of practices, they are the group that anything they write, there is tendency for anybody that sees it to go, oh yeah, who wrote that? Attorney Searches. Oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? Oh, this person is a medical doctor. Oh, internal medicine says somebody is having okay, so okay, well, it must be having. So,
Yeah.
but so sometimes I kind of wonder how God is so just patient with us, how God is being merciful to us. But in all of this, we are looking at this today to see how the development in technology has reshaped this practice. Because you have what you call attorney-client privilege, right? I don't know how that takes now when somebody I can be in my house just like we're doing right now, and you are having a meeting with me to counsel me over technology. I can only imagine if there is anyone spying on this video as we are doing it right now, right? So you never can say never, right? I know,
Even when I'm talking on the phone, I'm like, I pause because I'm like, are we being overheard? Like if somebody recording, yeah. So even like talking on the phone and stuff like that, yeah. Sometimes I pause.
Yeah, and it's kind of difficult sometimes. And with the advancement in technology now, right? For anybody who uses Apple, once you start dialing somebody's phone and they pick up, you can see right there. You can start recording the conversation. Right? Now,
Yeah.
don't record nobody's conversation because you might find yourself in a legal mess, right? But that is how the technology has come to, whereby they don't want you to miss out on anything. But then if you keep taking everything, you will find yourself in a pleasant situation. So keep in mind that anything you do, whatever you do it as unto the Lord.
The Lord.
Let's move on to this next question right here, and that is serving order, which is a very critical one. And I will probably circle back on talking about the people that are offering legal services now for immigrants. But how can lawyers or attorneys use this technology to serve their clients better while upholding their faith-based value?
I mean, technology is used everywhere, so I think that it's already being used to serve their clients better. But even with, okay, for example, like, and a lot of people think that lawyers know everything. Is actually a lot of us specialize in different areas because there's many laws for different things, right? So sometimes we may not know. Like somebody would ask me immigration question. I'm not an immigration attorney, so I might use ChatGPT to say, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you give me the specific rule when it comes to this, and that?" So that's technology, right? That is helping me get that information for someone, and it's usually someone at church. So that is so I'm upholding my being assistant in the Lord by helping you, even though that's not my area, but I know that there's ways that I can use technology to find out the answer. In terms of upholding your faith-based values, just like how you use Facebook or whatever, it depends on the platforms are not inherently evil. It's the people that are using the platforms that make it evil. And there's people that use the platforms that make it good. So even if I'm using ChatGPT, what am I using it for? Like that example, if somebody's asking me at church about a legal matter that I don't have knowledge of, I can use that to kind of prep me or help me to look for the right answer, right? So that's how I'm using it in a good way. But if somebody is using it in a negative way, then yeah, the result is going to be negative. So I think that we have to understand that technology in and of itself is not a bad thing. And our faith-based values will come from how we're using it. So it will come from the user, not from the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, the technology or the platforms or whatever people God gives people to create, they are not inherently evil. They are not evil on their own. I mean, you just look at all these apps today where people meet and uh, meet up and all those kind of things, the dating apps and stuff. For the most part, the maker of these platform, they create them, just some to have fun, some to meet, some to have business, to do business, and all of that. But when you look at that, it's not free of people using it as well to commit crime. Things that, for example, for those who like to post their pictures and kind of like their live event on social media, one of the things I tell people is that you don't want to. I'm not opposed to people posting. You can post. You can choose to post how you want to. But one thing that you must keep in mind is that as you're using it to kind of socialize, there are people using it, of course, for revenue, right? But then there are those using it for criminal purposes, and you want to be aware of that. So if you are on a vacation somewhere enjoying life, and you're broadcasting it and you're doing it, well, the message you're sending to a criminal is that I'm not home, so it's
Yeah.
okay now. You can come to my house, right? Now, so when you whatever you do, you have to always keep in mind that these platforms, they were created to serve a purpose, and for the most part, I mean, they are good. I don't know who created the platform we are using right now. Now, for those of you might watching us on Facebook or YouTube and all that, but we are coming to you from a third party application right now, right? But whoever made this, maybe they were not even thinking about people using it for gospel, right? But they make it because they're trying to solve a problem. And then we saw it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so if we connect this and this, then we can do this. Boom, here we are, and we do our things here. So ultimately, everybody will answer as to God as to how they use things that comes their way. The same thing, if this was a medical conversation, the same thing will happen, right? When people are mixing medication. The same medication that is being mixed to serve a purpose for good, somebody else will mix it to cause harm, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, what are you using? The technology you have, what are you using it for? The opportunity you have on getting on this platform, what are you using them for? Are you using them to glorify God?
Mhm.
Or are you using them because others are using it and I just want to be there? And then you have people who are actually literally monitoring you to know your whereabouts. Now, I don't say you should not enjoy yourself, right? Enjoy yourself to its fullness, but think about it next time when you want to post, especially when you go on trip or vacation, you want to wait. Take all
Mhm.
your pictures you want to do and all that. You go back home. So when you're posting, it's not when you are actually at the place. Be careful what
Definitely.
on the network. Now,
Exactly.
before we go to the next question, I actually want to go circle back to using the technology and the people that are helping the immigrant right now. My concern is because ultimately all this technology we have some satellite in the sky, right? And I wonder how are all these things still able to get done when things can get tapped into?
I was drinking water and
Like
spilling
before, like you said before, right? You wonder who's listening to
one
you.
downstairs.
in order to help people. For those who are going through that right now, I can only imagine how those who are trying to help them, how they are helping them to be able to get it solved without having to worry about the consequence that may come with it, because they could be spying.
I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. So, how are, if I get your answer, I mean your question correctly, how are some attorneys that are helping immigrants that may not be in favorable positions?
Yeah.
How are they certain that they're going to be protected, right? Because there's attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
So somebody can't say, "Oh, I needed information for what's the social security for the person that you just helped that is an undocumented immigrant." So there's attorney-client privilege. So someone can't just come and get, even as crazy as Donald Trump is, they can't just come and get all the info, like go to the doctor, the lawyer's office and get all his files and stuff like that. And then too, nowadays we try not to keep paper files. So there, if we have the files like on like a cloud or something, it's encrypted. Like even PII, personal, I think it's personal identifiable information. Yeah, all of that has to be encrypted. Even when I at work send an email, if I have one of the clients like name and information, I have to encrypt it. Even though I'm sending it to my supervisor, it has to be encrypted. So we're all like that's where technology go. Privacy laws are stronger than ever. So is there a possibility? There's always a possibility to do evil, but that's not the norm. Let me just put it that way. It's not the norm for an attorney to hand over information about who are they serving. It's not the norm. And then also you can have a lawsuit on your hands with that, because there are laws against it, and the attorney can be disbarred because they're breaking their attorney-client privilege. I mean, there's situations where attorneys went to court or either was in contempt of court because their client told them where the body is. The client was a murderer, told them where the body is, but the attorney can't say anything. Attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so right there, that you just mentioned, it's one of my issues with legal practices.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I said, of course, I'm not an attorney, so I'm kind of free in this scenario. That if I happens to be, I can't be a private attorney as a defense attorney, right? But probably then you will get stuck working with government. Right? Because you will be a prosecutor, right? And sometimes I look at the best of prosecutor. Yeah, you have your integrity, you have everything, and then you enjoy life. Certain things you can't do because you're just a defense prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
Go beyond whatever the government at the time chose to pay. That is not the case with a private attorney. So looking at a private attorney dealing with that, I'm wondering, how do they do? How are you able to successfully go to work and do that and represent this person? Because ultimately, I think on any given day, any defense attorney wants their client to be 100% truthful for them.
Yeah.
What about looking for the loopholes, right? I don't know how I'm going to be able to cope with that. So I'm like, no, this is not going to happen.
That's why I'm not a criminal attorney. Everybody has their tendencies. So I personally couldn't do criminal law because I don't have that. I don't have that tendency. Some other people are comfortable to them. And I worked with someone who explained it to me. They said, when it comes to defending or just even like enforcing laws, it's not about Right or wrong is one part of it. But what we're trying to do as attorneys is to prove innocence or not. So it's based on evidence. If the evidence is not there, it's not their job to prove whether the guy is a good guy or not. It's their job to prove whether there's enough evidence to put the person in jail or not. And if there isn't enough evidence, then the prosecution has to do their job to bring the evidence against their client. And then that's how he justified it. But his job is only to present the evidence, not to present morally whether someone is good or bad. Just to present the evidence that is before them, and then argue to the best of his ability for or against.
And I kind of get that, but if you're defending somebody, and then even with the evidence, and of course, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, right?
Mhm.
The burden on the prosecutor in all those criminal cases. With the evidence, the defense attorney's job, which now, of course, if you're a defense attorney, you're listening to this, hey, look, you do your job, right? But I'm kind of like, okay, I would like to know how you see the evidence, and yet trying to prove that is not, that didn't happen. My client didn't do that. I know. Then even if you see that, well, the evidence was handled in the wrong manner. So there is a chain of custody, right? When you're dealing with evidence, and instead of taking it from point A to point B, when you take it from point A to point C, yeah. So we know this evidence exists, but it didn't go through B. So therefore, the telling judge, do not let this be admissible because it was not taken through P, even though we know it was the right evidence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's procedural. It's the procedural law. So that's what I'm saying about there has to be law and order. So because everybody morally thinks that they're right or and others are wrong. So granted, if someone kills someone or whatever, we all know that that's not, I don't care what walk of life, we all understand. But then there's mitigating circumstances. What if that was self-defense? What if that person was stalking them? What if that, there's so many variables in the middle of this person was murdered by this person. And so that's what you're proving. Yes, the person may have murdered, or yes, that it is alleged that this is that, but these are the other evidences that proves his innocent or her innocence. So that's why I'm like, maybe you can say that, oh, why can't you just go to C, since we already know that that's wrong? It's wrong to who? Because the person that did committed the crime may have justifiably did it. And then they have to prove why they justifiably did it. And what are the mitigating circumstances of that? Maybe somebody was charging after them and they too had a weapon, but the other person got to them first. So if they were in a fight or something, both of them had a weapon, the other person got to them first. Yeah. So there's always a gray area. And that's why procedurally things have to be done in order so that everybody gets a fair chance of the evidence.
But in the process of doing it orderly, right? So we know that everything doesn't start with both the defense and the prosecutor, right? It's usually the crime happens, the law enforcement gets in, and then it goes like that. When you're in the heat or in the midst of investigating a fresh crime, it's a lot of things running through at that time, which create that chance or possibility of making mistake. Now, at that point, nobody cares. Nobody will take it as a mistake for you. You didn't do it right. You didn't do it right. And then ultimately, this person will walk on the street for free. And then the person who died. So I have a lot of struggle with.
That's why the ultimate judge is God. Because honestly, the ultimate judge is God. As much as we're lawyers trying to enforce the laws, and there are judges that create the laws, we're still all imperfect human beings. So that the ultimate judge is our Heavenly Father. That's why I said vengeance has to be His, because everybody will feel like they're right and the other person is wrong. So even if something has happened to us, let God be the ultimate judge and allow Him to bring vengeance, because He knows the heart of the other person. We may not know or even care to know, but He knows the heart of the other person. So God, when it says that He is our justice, He weighs both sides. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go on a quick break, and then when we come back, we will continue our question with the next one, navigating conflict. So let's go on a quick break, and we will be right back. Stay with us, everybody. Right, so right here, enjoy.
Are you ready to elevate your viewing experience? Welcome to One Way TV, where television meets innovation. With One Way TV, you can bring everyone together for unforgettable moments on your big screen. But wait, there's even more. Unlock a whole new world of teachings, preachings, and worship with our mobile apps. Download them today for Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and for the first time ever, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You will love how easy it is to switch from your phone to the TV. Now you can stream your favorite shows on the go. Perfect for your commute. The app interface is so user-friendly, you can find what you want in seconds. Unlimited access. Access to the undiluted Word of God and worship that bring our hearts closer to the Father. Here's why you'll love our apps. Personalized recommendations. Enjoy curated content just for you. Seamless syncing. Start on one device and pick up right where you left off on another. Live streaming. Catch live events in real time, no matter where you are. Download for offline viewing. Perfect for travels or when you're on the move. With our mobile apps, you can connect with your favorite shows and movies like never before. All you need is a tap. Don't wait. Download One Way TV mobile apps today and start learning more about God. Available now on Apple Store, Google Play, Roku, Amazon App Store, and more. One Way TV, proclaiming Christ to the nations.
All right, so thank you so much, everybody. As we continue this conversation today, we have been looking at the impact of evolving technology and the gospel in legal practice. And of course, I have my bias when it comes to the issue of legal practice. Now, definitely, I'm not an attorney, so I'm kind of good in having this kind of conversation. So, but I will still have some reservations because I know that there are people in prison for a crime that they didn't commit. But then there are people on the street for crime they commit, but they're able to walk free. And these are the things that happen every day. And so some people chose to make career from having to be the one to be the voice of the voiceless. So for those, I say thank you for all that you do. And for those who are really tight on crimes, those who ensure that those who commit crime goes to prison, such as the prosecutors. Thank you for all you do. So whether you're a defense attorney or you're a prosecutor, thank you for all you do. But keep in mind, let all that you do now, of course, this is only for Christians, right? That's all that you do, be guided by Christ. Whatever you do, do as unto the Christ, unto God. All right, I'm going to bring our guest back, who is an attorney who's been helping us to understand certain things that happens. Because for me, some things I'm like, there's no way I could not have been the one to do this, because how can you do this? And you would think, I'll be like, look, he did it, let him go serve the time. Okay, all right, so let me bring her back. All right, so I live in the world of, if you do it, go do the time. Because if I was an attorney, but there was a popular attorney that I reviewed some of the cases he did when I was doing my criminal justice, and I'm like, wow. Only if I can be like this guy, or maybe I will have. But then I don't know whether I'll be able to get some sleep at night. I'm nuts. So let's go to the next question here, which is navigating conflict. How do you balance personal conviction rooted in the gospel with legal responsibility that may sometimes conflict? And I think that's what we've been trying to talk about, which is my own bias. But over to you. Let's see how that is done in the legal.
So one of the things that like prevented me from doing like family law was divorces. Because my personal conviction is that I believe that people should strive to stay together. I know that marriages there's going to be ups and downs, but the Bible says that God hates divorce. So one of the areas that I kind of stayed away from was family law, because I knew that inevitably, if you're a family law attorney, that you will have to handle divorces. But I did speak to a pastor who was a family law attorney, and I asked him, like, how were you comfortable doing family law and initiating divorces when you're a pastor? And he said that, it's something that he had to really think about, that what he tries to do is counsel the couple before, and there's mediation. Like most states, you're not going to just walk in and go get a divorce. There's going to be steps before that happens. So, and most times it's mediation to try to see if you guys can reconcile before actually getting a divorce. So that was something that he did. And there's some people that specialize in mediation. Actually, they don't go through the whole divorce. They specialize in mediation as attorneys. So he said that he tries to mediate his clients before even proceeding with any other legal representation for it. And if they see that they can't reconcile, then that is a decision that they have to make. And he did not see it as a conflict, because they rather come to him who will still encourage them than an unbeliever who will give them a different direction. Do you see what I'm saying? So even though they will ultimately get the divorce, it's better to come through someone that will encourage them on how to grow closer to God, and even still see if they can reconcile, or even see if they can mediate before they take the final step. So that was what he had told me. But me personally, I just always stayed away from like family law and criminal law, because I knew that I would be convicted in doing those types of laws. So that's why I said it's a certain type. Not every person can do every type of law. Everybody has certain graces. I just personally I'm not graced for those areas. So
That was really interesting. It would be nice for me to see and talk to that pastor, because that is a work
yeah.
to be a pastor and find yourself in that space. But I do agree though with him about, ultimately, whether if you don't want to go to court, the Bible says, right, you either agree with your uh, um, advisory on the way, right, quickly, instead of letting them taking you to court. So the encouragement there then is, you don't necessarily want to go to court. You should be able to resolve issues, not even just marriage issue now. Anything that happens, right? You should be able to work on conflict resolution to get it resolved, right, without having to go to court. But we live in a land where I can actually go sue you tomorrow morning at court if they are open. I can visit. Well, she looked at me in some way, and so I feel threatened or something, right? So the issue is not about you bringing up a lawsuit, but the issue is, can you win? Do you have a case?
Mm-hmm.
You can just walk up to the clerk office and fill the paperwork and do whatever.
Yeah.
And go online. At the end of the day, I sue such and such, I sue how many this number of people per year. Well, do you have a case? So we know that. But when we look at people, even if you don't want to go to court, there are people who have promised themselves, like they did to Paul, not to eat or drink until they kill. So there are people who are ready to sue you nonetheless. But then you have to respond to the legal body, right? When you're sued, you can't say, well, I'm forbidden from going to court.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they come bug you and lock you up. So you have to respond. So I do agree in the sense that, and I think we do need more people in that space, because if we do, maybe it might have the numbers, because when
Yeah.
you listen to the number of divorces, it's always kind of mind-boggling, right? When you hear the number, and especially in the Christian society. So I think we need more of those kind of people who are Christian, and they are right there to, help people walk through that space.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you would have some testimonies about the people who probably think that they are zero, they're done. This is over, and by the time they're done with him, they will go back and they will have a perfect marriage. I think
Mhm.
you will have some testimony like that. But
Yeah.
then we would have to have people who are confident in themselves, that they're able to handle both,
Yeah.
to know that people will come across to you. You're not there. Somebody like that is not there for the money, because
Exactly. Yeah.
my concern with being a defense attorney is that if you're there for money, you take just any cases and you'll be ready to do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
But if you're there for money, you can be a prosecutor, whatever the salary scale is what you get, right? So you might be a defense attorney and take it $20,000 to do a case,
Mhm.
but the prosecutor in that case, maybe it depends on how long the case take. Maybe they
Yeah.
are within that period, it's not even up to 10,000, right? So at the end of the day, we need people who will take it as ministry, people who knows that they are going in, and the goal is not about seeing people divorce, but to see family come together despite all that they might have gone through. And that
Exactly.
is the kind of pastor you're talking about right
Yeah.
there, who is able to know that we need that. And if we go back into the Bible in the time of those judges, I can only imagine people who bring family conflict to them as well, and then they
Mhm.
have to resolve it, right, without having to separate the family. And
Yeah.
that is good. Now, as we rounding up today on this platform, what would be, I know you're not into immigration, right? But what would be your words of encouragement? I didn't want to say advice, because we're not advising nobody on this
Yeah.
platform. The disclaimer there is, I hope anybody who listened to us today, you do not take anything we say whatsoever to be an advice. So we're not
Yeah.
here to advise you, but we're here to encourage you. Again, we discuss issues and challenges of life. It just so happened that this topic kind of coincided with, I wasn't even thinking about it, not until
Yeah.
we spoke live, and then I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. So, what would be your word of encouragement to those who might be seeing this, or they have family members or relatives, or and they might not even be in the North America, but they know what is going on now? What would be your word of encouragement for them as we go through this season in this life?
Use your Bible as your guide, because when you look at the different heroes of the Bible, a lot of them were immigrated from, not even immigrated, taken from their homes and taken to another land. So they most people, Moses even had to, God told him to leave. Most people that we look up to in the Bible, that even God says that they're men after their own heart. That this in church we read through Hebrews of those people that are our faith. And you see how even in the midst of not being in their environment, not being around their own people, God still allowed them to prosper in foreign lands. And so even though the situation, it seems confusing and tough, and it seems like you don't know necessarily what is going to happen to you, whether people are deporting themselves. Was just saw an article where a mom, a Mexican, she's a Mexican mom. I think she had 3 or 4 kids that were born here. She left to go back to Mexico so that her children would not be separated because of her if she was ever deported. So she left her children so that she went back to Mexico without anybody telling her, because she feared that if she was caught, that they might separate her children. And so, I mean, a lot of things are happening, and you won't be human if you are in a situation where you're undocumented or you have some issues with immigration, there isn't some anxiety. But the Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but through prayer and supplication, make your requests known. Pray to your Father. Ask for mercy. However you got here, you're here. Ask God for mercy so that now that you're here, that he keeps you here. Not only keeps you here, that he prosper you here. Just like every other person throughout the Bible, Daniel and Joseph, Moses that left, even Isaac. I mean, they were plugging his well because he was in an environment that they didn't welcome him. We're not the first, and we're not going to be the last. People who are in foreign lands, as if you're a Christian, even if you were born in the United States, if you're a Christian, this earth is a foreign land to you, because our home is heaven, right? And so, how do we navigate? There are many examples in the Bible how people navigated being in a foreign land and still being prosperous. And that was taking heed of God's word, applying it to your life, and trusting him that he will make every crooked way straight, and that the plans that he has for you is good and not of evil. So that would be my encouragement, to go back to your Bible, to go back to the one who created you, and who knows your end from the beginning. Ask God for mercy, and for him to reveal to you what it is that you need to do or what not to do. Because also another thing is, legally, people try to do certain things to keep themselves here by marrying, paying people to marry them and things like that, and it gets them into more trouble. And I advise against it, because I'm like, you're trying to put your own destiny in your own hands. Ask God about strategies and ways that are legal and right to stay here and to prosper. Because he has done it before, he can do it again. So that would be my encouragement.
Thank you so much. Ask God for mercy. And when you are speaking, talking about, even if you are a Christian, you know that where we are right now, this world is not our own. And I can only remember that song by Jim Reeves that says, "This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid off somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heavens upon the door, and I can't feel like home in this world anymore." We cannot feel like home in this world anymore, and certainly this world is not our home. Whatever you are facing today, just know that we are all on a journey, and certainly we will return one day. All right, well, I want Antonio on this platform. Thank you so much for making today a beautiful one. I know it's a tough one. This kind of conversation is not an easy to have conversation, simply because it has to do with a bunch of legal things. But you're able to get us through this, so thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. They made me think. I'm gonna put it that way.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, stay with me in the studio and I will be right back. And I want to encourage everyone who is listening to be on the lookout, as the podcast from our guest today will be coming live to you on Friday. And that is going to be talking about virtual law firms and remote work. Virtual law firm and remote work. You will want to listen to that. Well, this is where we're heading in today, but I encourage you to check us out on the website. Visit viewpointministriesinternational.org and, just shuffle through our website. You will see a couple of things we do. Also, remember to subscribe if you have not done so on our YouTube platform or all our social media platforms. Follow us. You can get the first of the day from all our social media platforms as well. Feel free to listen to our podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Amazon podcast as well. And if you get it on Podfin, yes, feel free to get it from there. Well, we had it here today. Remember, this is not our home. And we certainly going to return one day. I'm yours, Solomon Oluwabiye. Until next week, have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye for now.
If you have enjoyed this program and want to help support Let's Talk About Jesus, please subscribe, share, and comment to catch all the latest from Viewpoint Ministries. Follow us on all social media platforms and listen to us on podcasts at Viewpoint Ministries. You can also listen to our free 24/7 radio channel on Mixlr or visit our website www.viewpointministriesinternational.org. Thanks for watching and God bless you.